so it's turning hotels into destinations, dining destinations. Innovations that the big brands developing to ensure an ROI to the investment community, to their investors. And does it increase occupancy and rate in their hotels? And to moderate this session is Rohit Sakhdev, who participated on a panel yesterday, but who's MD of Soho Hospitality. And I just love what Rohit's done over the last 10 years, having started your own design company 10 years ago after developing the Fraser Suites hotels in Bangkok, starting up your design firm. In 2010, you then set up Soho Hospitality Consultancy Services, advising clients around the world, or primarily in Thailand?
Across the region, primarily Asia Pacific.
Across the region, and designing and advising clients, and then recently, 2 years ago, opening one restaurant, and you're about to launch your second restaurant.
We have a second restaurant. We're launching in the next couple months, and it's a new concept in Indian dining. Indian food has been delivered the same way the last 500 years, and you always leave an Indian restaurant either saying the food was good or bad, and there's never much to remember in terms of the experience. So we're bringing the fun into Indian dining. It's a very interesting concept. The restaurant's called Charcoal, and it's opening in Bangkok in June 2014.
Great. Rohit, thank you so much. And,
thank you very much.
We look forward to your panel.
Thank you. So after the lovely event we had yesterday evening, for the sake of knowledge sharing, market awareness, since this is my first time to Dubai, a couple of us who are here decided to venture out to check out the Dubai nightlife. I won't mention any names or where we went and what time we got home. But the one thing I did recall is that when I woke up this morning and I was trying to gather all my things, I looked at my 2 credit card bills that I had signed. And I'm not going to tell you how much I spent, but it's much more than I ever spend in Bangkok going out at night. And I did see how the tourism spend is going up. I'm sure I had a big part to play for the tourism spend in 2014. And I also saw how hotels in Dubai are turning themselves into dining destinations. So that was a fantastic opportunity to see what's out there. But it was a fantastic event last night. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed that. When I looked at this topic and turning hotels into dining destinations, one of the things that I tried to look back at some of the visionaries and experiences as a consumer that inspired me. And one of the biggest inspirations I had was in 1993. When I just moved into New York City, I was studying there, and I walked in through, I don't know if most of you understand this term, but it's called door drama. In New York, the word door drama means when you're desperately trying to get into a nightclub or a hotel, or a nightclub or a restaurant, which is guarded by beautiful people who really don't want you in there. And what amazed me was that at the Royalton Hotel, which was a hotel of Ian Schrager and Philippe Starck, one of his many hotels he did in New York, there was door drama for me trying to get into the hotel, and I didn't understand that. And then when I finally got through and I walked into the lobby, I was amazed at how Ian Schrager had been such a visionary to start the whole concept of lobby socializing, where you wanted to see and be seen in a lobby. And it was a space that generally is not revenue generating. We're just primarily checking people in. But in New York City at the Royalton, it was an amazing thing that Ian Schrager did. And I was really impressed with how he had turned a hotel into a dining destination. After I'd left New York and I came back to visit, he had launched the Hudson Hotel. This time I was staying at the hotel, so I didn't have to go through the door drama. But what happened was all my friends in New York now wanted to come and hang out with me at the hotel. So I hung out at the hotel. I was there for 3 nights. I probably drank at all the bars in the hotel. And of course, because it's easy to sign the bill, I ended up treating all my friends at the hotel. And when I checked out, I spent more money on the drinking at the bars within the hotel than I did on my room rate. So I said, wow, this guy is a genius. And the room at the Hudson was like, I think it was like 18 square meters or 20 square meters. So I said, wow, this guy's a genius. And that was another experience of what he did. And I'm very much inspired by Ian Schrager. Obviously, at some of his hotels, he spent a lot more money. He spent a lot of CapEx, and some of them didn't work out so well. But in terms of being a visionary of turning hotels into dining destinations, I think he did a fantastic job. I moved back to Thailand 10 years ago, and Stefan yesterday spoke about what he saw in the ASEAN region and Asia Pacific and what inspired him. And I think it's an interesting point because the entrepreneurial spirit that we see today within Thailand and other areas in Southeast Asia, and we've seen some great concepts coming out in Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, and I think the lower cost of penetration allows a greater availability of some of this entrepreneurial spirit, and so we're seeing amazing concepts coming out from independent restaurateurs, and at the same time, another thing that we're seeing, and I touched upon it yesterday, is the rise of a new breed of middle-class consumers who are design conscious, well-traveled due to the Air Asia. Now everybody can fly. And these people are, they know what they want. They have high expectations. They're sophisticated. And they're a huge market, huge untapped market. So these young entrepreneurs and restaurants are certainly making some of the hotel brands relook at what they're doing. But I think we need to understand. One of the things I'll be talking about is really trying to understand the sheer volume of concepts that some of these brands are bringing out versus the individuality that some of the younger entrepreneurs are bringing into those concepts, and how do you manage the individuality that a restaurant requires versus the sheer volume and size of concepts that you need to put out on a yearly basis. So I think there's certainly a lot of respect to the operators based on what they're doing, but at the same time, there's certain things that are happening in the independent hotels and restaurant scene that are, I think, changing the way they look at restaurants. So without further ado, I'd like to invite some of our panelists and to further discuss some of these topics. Phil Broad, Vice President, Food and Beverage of IHG. Could you please join us up here? Henning Fries, Managing Director, Hospitality Division, Al Hub Tour Group. Simon Lazarus, Vice President, Food and Beverage, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, Hilton Worldwide. And John Yantin, Commercial Director of the One Group Europe. A very distinguished panel here. So I was just talking a little bit about the rise of this urban, sophisticated, middle-class consumer. Certainly, a lot of the hotel brands have new products that are coming into the market, catering to the budget traveler or the middle-income traveler. But what about F&B? Is this a market that interests you? Are you looking at concepts that cater to this emerging demographic? Phil, you want to take a stab at this?
Take a stab. We've got a pipeline of 137 hotels across our region, and 70% of that is in the mid-scale range. So we really have to take that seriously. However, with our brands running from the Intercontinental brand through to Holiday Inn Express, we cater for everybody. So yes, we see the rise of the casual dining, but there is still a need to cater for all the different demographic profiles of people traveling to our hotels. So yeah, it's really important to us.
Simon?
Yeah, we're very similar to IHG in that we have a tremendous pipeline and we have multiple brands to answer to the needs of every customer. But if I were to look at it from a perception of a hotel, a upper upscale hotel such as this, we've tried to deformalize the whole fare of the lobby and make it much more attractive for people to come in, providing side entrances and really bringing the concepts in line with the expectation of many different markets. So we've gone away from the ultra fine dining to a much more casual approach that is welcoming to a much bigger cross section of the market.
John?
I think you can overthink it. You know, we're a smaller operator than some of these guys that, you know, looking at across the spectrum of budget to mid-scale to upper scale. So I think the larger you get, obviously, the more information you need, the more analytics you need of your marketplace. But, you know, we're fortunate that we are a smaller operator, and to a degree we go with our instincts. You know, we put a product out in the market and we can react and we can tweak and we can amend reasonably quickly. I think the higher you go and the larger your organization gets, and the more that you're more of a generalist across the marketplace, then yes, I think you do look into those rules and those management techniques and the analytics that come with it. But I think we're fortunate at the moment, you know, hopefully that will change in the years ahead. We're fortunate at the moment that we're more entrepreneurs. You do go with your instinct. You spot your customers, you can understand your customers, and, you know, you pick up some of the stuff that's been talked about over the last 24 hours. It's easy to see what that customer's doing.
Well, I think different horses for different courses. I think operating different brands, different categories of hotels, it really depends on location, your demographics, what kind of customers you're trying to attract. And based on that, you would obviously determine how formal or informal your restaurant or food and beverage offering should be. And again, we are in a slightly different situation. We operate hotels and we own hotels where other third parties are operating on our behalf, and that is really something which we are very keen to explore, have operators that don't only deliver well on the room side of things, which is quite easily measured and very well documented, but then also can deliver on the food and beverage and other income side of things. Yeah. And again, experience has shown that the more expertise and the more sophistication and the more breadth of different concepts an operator can actually contribute to your operation, the better an overall, you know, relationship it is, and the more you can get out of your asset.
You know, Phil, I just had something that I wanted to ask you. You know, let's say you have an Intercon, you cater to the upper segment of the market. Do you think of should we create a concept that, you know, will appeal to the travelers that are staying, the captive audience that are staying within the hotel, but yet should we also make sure that this concept is relevant to that upper middle segment that perhaps is coming from the outside? Would you look at something that would be flexible like that for?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you look at what we've done here in Dubai with Dubai Festival City, I mean, only 2 days ago we announced the opening of Choix, which is the new Pierre Garnier lobby concept for us, which we've worked with Pierre specifically on. And now that's created an aspirational place to go to. It's priced very competitively in the market, but will be a destination for people to go and visit as well. And that's been quite heavily advertised the last couple of days in Dubai. And then you have Pierre downstairs in Reflay, which has been there 6 years. Again, is an aspirational place to go to. And will, again, drive more traffic through the Intercontinental. Jason Atherton was announced on Sunday that he will be in Dubai Marina. Again, that's something that I think will, again, capture a lot of the expat community as well as local community to drive people through the doors. I know Jumeirah is doing a similar thing with some of its concepts. So, you know, you have to do that. I mean, I think the market is so vast, our customer base is so wide, that unless we do things that are relevant, not just for us, but for our guests and our owners, then we won't be successful. And you know, I think a classic again is, you know, we launched the new children's menu for Intercontinental globally, which is Annabelle Carmel, who's, you know, a prolific book writer, 40 books on children's nutrition and balance, with Theo Randall. Now that's a point of difference for us as a hotel group. That will be a reason for families to visit an Intercontinental. So I think we're doing a lot of different things on a lot of different platforms, as many of the people are here. You know, we've got between us, probably 600 hotels sitting on this stage, and that's a lot of customers. I mean, we've got 42 million customers a year going through our doors. Right. If we don't create things that are relevant, then it won't work. Stefan Bregg's joined us because he's a prolific concept developer of restaurants, not hotel restaurants. You know, concepts outside in malls, in high streets that I think now are becoming more and more relevant to the customer that's coming through our doors.
Henning, you've got a very interesting development. Al Habtoor is in the process of building what will be the largest hotel in the Middle East with 1,600 rooms with Starwood Hotels and Resorts. And it's I think, the first hotel that will have a St. Regis, a Westin, and a W within one building. So as you look at, you know, your ambitions in terms of F&B, you've got multiple brands within a single outfit. You know, what are you thinking? What keeps you up at night? What are you? What?
We have a very ambitious.
I mean, from an F&B perspective, I mean, what are your thoughts, and how do you engage the operator in terms of, you know, what you want out of something like that from an F&B perspective?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier. Hotel side is very important, but hotel has really two sides. It's the food and beverage, and in the rooms, by and large. There are many other facets to it. But and it's quite important that you know, revenue per square meter, utilization, and return on the asset is delivered through various means, and a large chunk of that is through food and beverage. So you want to have an operator that has access to brands or has experience, has the expertise within to actually deliver great experiences and deliver that footfall that you would want to have in such a large complex. Now, there's always the fallacy, I think, in many hotels is it's a captive audience. You have your hotel guests staying, and they're actually going to use the restaurants. But I think everybody now realizes that's days gone by, and today you have to be so much more innovative and so much more out there in having the right concepts to either keep customers within that are staying with you, but also, most importantly, attracting the outside customer to your venue. And like you've mentioned, I mean, this project is probably not the largest, but it is probably one of the largest and most ambitious one for Dubai, having 3 distinct different brands on one spot. And that is for us important to complement that also with the food and beverage offering. So we have various models. They are your hotel restaurants, there are third-party operated restaurants, and independent restaurants as well, to come together and give this whole sort of landscape of different food and beverage offers that we think is going to make that particular destination successful.
And how many F&B outlets are we talking about within a complex like that?
We are talking about 30 altogether, outlets, and I actually don't like to use the term outlet because it has always this connotation of it's a hotel, a place in a hotel where you can go and eat. So it's restaurant, lounges, and bars with various entertainment components as well. And I think it was mentioned earlier in the conference a couple of times. It's the experience, it's the entertainment side, it's sort of the suitability to the space and the type of customers that you're trying to attract. And you know, fortunately, we have quite a big playing ground, but also it's a big playground we have to fill with lots of kids, so to speak, if that makes any sense.
Right. John, you've got we talked briefly at the event last night about what you're doing. You've got a very interesting concept. It's a strategy, sorry, in terms of the way you're penetrating the market and how you work with hotels. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing, because it's quite unique and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't work with these guys because I think as Phil said, that they're a much broader sweep across the consumer base with the brands and within the portfolio. So, you know, we sit where we sit in the marketplace. The one group does 2 things. I'll give you a case study. It's probably the best way of describing what we do best. We own and operate our own restaurants. STK is our principal brand. You know, STK sits in that Pakistan, Zuma, aspirational 4-star deluxe space. You know, it's not celebrity chef driven, it's experiential. You know, food's a component. Lots of the stuff that, you know, a lot of people seem to be agreeing with over the last day or so. We work with a hotel in London, which is a case study I'll give you. And the hotel has 160 keys. It's 4-star, 5-star property. It's cool, it's sexy, it's urban, it's contemporary. It's all those buzzwords everybody wants to, you know, put on their marketing literature. The hotel, if it's, say, running this weekend on Saturday, Friday nights at 80% occupancy, there'll be something like 250 people sleeping in the hotel that night, making the assumption not every single room's on double occupancy. Another 1,800 people are going to pass through that building using the F&B facilities. Now, that's a hotelier's way of the language, and Henning has made a very good point that calling it outlets and calling it F&B is old school in a way. You know, we firmly believe we're in the hospitality business. You know, F&B is something that obviously we sign up to, but we believe delivering hospitality. We're running, this is in London, it's the Me Hotel, part of the Melia portfolio, and it's sort of their version of the W is how they sit in the market. So we run an SDK steakhouse. We'll have about 600 people go through that on Saturday night. We have Assalino, which again is one of our corporate brands, which is an Italian. We have one in Atlanta and one in New York. We'll do 300 people through that premises on Saturday night. We've created a rooftop bar, which is owned and operated by us and the hotel asset owner. Approximately 1,000 people will go through that. And then obviously you've got the amenity elements of the lobby, maybe there's something going on in banqueting and events. What we've done is we operate that whole building. I mean, the only thing we don't do is sell the bedrooms and clean the bedrooms. The minibar, the in-room dining, the strawberries dipped in chocolate, the glass of Prosecco in the welcome. It's 100% straight down vertical. We're operating all the hospitality. Now that brings an added value to the hotel. It brings a consistency all the way through. You know, we say we have an area manager, except our guy works vertically, not across a patch of streets. And I guess the best example of it, I was talking to a customer recently in SDK, and we're chatting, he's having a great time, and I said, where are you staying in London? He said, I'm staying at wherever. I said, well, next time you should stay here. And he looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. He said, why would I stay in a restaurant? You know, the beauty of what we've created is the customer had no idea that he was sitting in a restaurant that was in a hotel or had a hotel above it. Now, there's rules and skills that come with that. You know, we try and insist that our restaurants are on the perimeter of the hotel. It's got a separate entrance, but also it can be accessed within for hotel guests. And what we're trying to do is effectively build a flag for an owner or a developer that's a hospitality flag, not a hotel room flag. I think the hotel, and listening to some of our colleagues over the last day, the hotel companies are changing their philosophy, and particularly hear what Jumeirah are doing and what Phil's company are doing. So I think it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. But, you know, we stick to our guns. We're hospitality operators. We understand the hotel market, of course. But I think that's a real new dynamic in the marketplace.
Thank you. Simon, I spoke a little bit about the entrepreneurial spirit and some of the independence in the market. When you see what's out there, what some of these young entrepreneurial independent restaurants are putting out, do you see that as a threat? Are you learning from them? I mean, what are you doing? Are they forcing you to look at things differently? What's your perspective on that?
No, absolutely, and particularly in a market like Dubai, we've seen the likes of where hotels dominated the dining scene for many years. The likes of DIFC have obviously made hotel operators look at things in a much different way. Hence you'll see products coming up with Henning's company, the Al Hab Tour Group, the Waldorf on the Palm, which is designed to be a dining destination on its own to compete. The Conrad Dubai, where we've made a balance between celebrity chefs, external operators, our own concept. So we definitely have had to change the way that we've done things. Historically, hotels have always been, the hotels were there before independent restaurants really became huge. But we've adapted the principles of putting general managers in restaurants, incentivizing them highly, and hiring in people from independent restaurants. So if you don't move in that direction, you're surely not going to succeed.
Phil, you've brought in Stefan. We talked about this over lunch a couple months ago. He was brought in to sort of shake things up and ruffle a few feathers, if you will. But at the same time of you desiring to do that, you have a whole corporate structure and ideology in your D&E teams and at the higher echelons of your organization. How do you go about if you decide that things are evolving, we need to adapt. How do you manage that expectation? One person's not going to do it, but how do you ensure that that's going to be that commitment is going to be successful?
I think one of the things that's come out of the last couple of days, actually, the culture of food and beverage is very different to the culture of hotels. And so we've had to look differently at the talent we want to bring into our business to really understand, you know, the dining experience, what customers expect at every occasion. And so bringing someone in like Stefan was really just to signal that we're serious. And, you know, I know, you know, Simon's doing the same, Henning's probably going to look the same, Jim Maria's doing the same. Everyone's building food and beverage talent, which is pretty new to our industry. But, you know, we've got 5,400 restaurants across the globe. You've got to have specific talent looking at that to make sure our colleagues get the best training, that we tailor the experience, we have the right concept, we plan the hotels in the right way. And so you can't do it alone. You've got to get the people really focused on delivering that to support the hotels. And my view is I'm a support center to support what the hotels do. I can't implement across the amount of hotels we have. But what we can do is support in terms of making sure right concept, right training materials, right menus to really suit what's coming through your door. Right. I mean, 40% of our revenue is from food and beverage. And in many markets, it's much higher than that. And you look at Dubai, about, you know, the amount of people coming into the hotels from outside, it's a really big part of our business. And we have to compete with the outside market. We have to compete with what's on the high street, what's in malls. And unless we do that, we won't be successful. Right. And so I think every hotel operator is waking up going, food and beverage is a halo effect on our hotels. That will help drive, yes, occupancy, loyalty, ADR. So, you know, the more talent we have that's really focused on food and beverage, the better.
So, Phil, in let's say in a typical year, 2014, how many new concepts would you be rolling out within your hotels?
Stefan's been with us about 6 months. He's already done 38 concepts. He'll be grey like me shortly. But yeah, there's 200 restaurants in the pipeline. And so we have to look, is that going to be celebrity chef driven? Is that going to be concept in a box that we can do more than just you know, one in one hotel? We've obviously got breakfast to look after, and historically we've been bed and breakfast. We're now breakfast, lunch, dinner, morning, coffee, afternoon tea. We're everything now. And so, you know, we will continue to develop the concepts, but we'll be very busy, and we'll use, obviously, our discussions with yourself and discussions with many other designers here about how we get cutting edge. Currently, many of us aren't even on the blade. You know, we've got to get cutting edge concepts for some of our hotels to make sure we become and continue to be the dining destination.
Yeah, but how do you, I mean, you know, as individual, as entrepreneurs, John and I, you know, when we look at a concept, you know, we sometimes can get involved in even the minute details of executing that concept, because that's important to us. Yep. You know, how do you manage the sheer volume versus individuality that a restaurant needs in order to be successful? I mean, what is the process behind that? I mean, you know,
at the end of the day, we can develop the best concept in the world, the best SOPs to drive it, the best menu. But at the end of the day, the people who run that restaurant and the manager who run that restaurant are the most important people to that business. And so we really focus on the recruitment of the right people in the right location. And our training materials that we created, it's now an online training platform to make sure that colleagues can see what we expect, as well as listen and understand their own language, is becoming more and more important. I mean, how do I touch 29,000 colleagues now across the EMEA region? I can't do it unless we do it by a video-based system. So we've been investing in that. I know Simon's has done the same. And so, you know, we are trying to stay as focused as we can on right people, right place, great training, and support the people in making sure make the right recruitment decisions.
Simon?
We have to be all things to all people. We have owners. In some cases, we're the owners. In some cases, we lease. So we have to satisfy the customer, number one. So we have to treat each location differently. So we've set up a global team called the Hilton Restaurant Group that does three different things. One is design our own internal concepts off the shelf for rollout, which is a very economical a very economical solution. Secondly, designing bespoke concepts for individual places. And then thirdly, negotiating third-party deals with celebrity chefs, franchises, and so on. So that department does just that, and it's made up of everybody from designers to people who were in independent restaurants previously, who worked with concept companies. So it's a very well-rounded team backed up by architecture and construction team. So it is very well resourced to deliver fantastic concepts. And we have to treat each market and each hotel and each owner with a totally different approach. If we are the owner, it is very straightforward and easy for us to make a decision. Working with other owners, it needs to be a lot of communication, a lot of talking, a lot of analysis to ensure that you're doing the right thing. So it's a very complex business, 320 hotels, building 200 more, 800 existing restaurants and bars with every nature of contract and situation that you can imagine. So we have teams behind this making sure that we're not taking one blanket approach. We have to cherry pick and look at each hotel very differently.
Coming into some of the topics that were in the manual, John, let's talk a little bit about financial impact of a successful dining destination and the impact of that on the performance of a hotel. You're currently doing that in the UK. You want to tell us a little bit about some of the metrics and how successful you've been?
No. I'll give you a good example. The Standard Hotel in New York, it's, if you don't know, it sits in meatpacking. The rooms are okay. They're not big, they're pleasant. They've got a nice view of the Hudson. It's doing 50% hospitality revenue against what it's doing on room revenue. That's a great percentage. It's doing 80 million a year. It's doing $40 million of one site through hospitality. Now, that's really good added value to the asset owner. We're doing something very similar in London. We've just closed our first year, and again, we've hit 50%. And I think what's interesting as well has been a lot of talk about Dubai. I know we're sitting in Dubai, and we've a lot of talk about the UAE, and obviously that's where we are. But they are very different markets to what I would call a normal market, whether it's emerging, whether it's not emerging. I think Bob made a very good point, which I tend to agree with. It's a little bit like Las Vegas. It's more transient. There's a lot going for it. It's different to a New York or a London or another urban city centre. So I think that does swing it in a particular way. To pick up 50% revenue in London, in the heart of London, from hospitality in a new hotel, that's a big deal. Because the competition on every single street corner, whether you're going to a 25 cover Baccarat, whether you're going to a cool hip thing without a sign, whether you're going to a Zuma or a Hakkasan that's standalone, and none of these are in hotels. These are standalone leases on a street corner. The competition is immense, and so to be doing 50% revenue is a big deal. There was talk before from yourself about Ian Schrager. The old story is that you couldn't get into the Mondrian. You just couldn't get up there. But if you really wanted to, book a room. Book a room, split the cost between four of you. If one of you gets lucky, three will have to sleep downstairs somewhere. But the key to access was to be in the hotel, because it became something more than just a place to sleep. And I think that's changing, whether it's changing at the size of a Hilton or an IHG or a larger organization. But I think in the part of the market that we tend to operate in, I think there's been a change of the ownership. There's a lot more sovereign wealth, not just in their own territories, and in other territories as well. There's a lot of high net worth individuals that are using hotel asset as a property play. And they're demanding not necessarily just that they want a flag to come in and the flag takes control of the rooms and everything they're under, but they're then going and running side by side the hospitality, whether that's bringing in a third party such as us to either take a lease or do a franchise, or what we do and do 100% top to bottom. But they're trying to run those two things side by side to ensure that the asset is delivering that return, both from a hotel room that's on a 24-hour turn, or a restaurant table that's on a 2-hour turn, or a 2.5-hour turn. And that's a big difference. The management skill to operate something on a 24-hour turn with a guest to a 2.5-hour turn, that's a completely different level of experience and background. Some of the other organizations that we just heard are putting skilled teams in to pick up and turn and take advantage of that skill base to add value to the revenue.
I'm running out of time, but there's two important questions. Anybody can take this. The impact on ADR and occupancy, a successful dining destination. Are there metrics to validate that? Anyone?
Currently, no. We can speculate all we want and say that it drives it drives occupancy and so on. But no, the truth is there is none at this point. What is interesting though, we have companies like Hotstats that do compare restaurant to restaurant, hotel restaurant to hotel restaurant, banquet space to banquet space. So that's new, that's useful, and that's growing. They're moving into more markets. So that's one new stat that we can draw on.
Fantastic. Just one quick, and then a quick question I wanted you. Can each of you tell us which restaurant or hotel you believe has turned itself into a successful dining destination, and why? Just very, very quickly, each one of you. Just give us a...
I'm sitting here in Dubai, so I'll have to mention one of my own hotels. So I think Dubai Festival City continues to evolve, continues to invest. I mean, it's got Belgian Beer Cafe, yes, it's got Pierre, yes, it's got the new one. But also it's got the all-day dining, which is fantastic design. We're going to continue to build that and invest in it, and I think it will grow and grow, particularly with 2020 coming. But we're all starting to put food and beverage in the heart and centre of everything we do. Jumeirah do it already in this market. I mean, they're probably one of the best in this market at doing that. But we're all in the same game, and we're all got great potential. But I'd say Dubai Festival City, with the Crown Plaza and Intercontinental, are great destinations.
I was going to say you can't pick one of your own properties, but I guess you got me there.
I mentioned Jumeirah. I think Jumeirah put it front and centre of what they do, and are obviously now investing more and more in that. And they've got Madinat Jumeirah is a phenomenal dining destination with 30-odd restaurants in there. So they are leading the way a bit.
Anybody else, just quickly?
Well, sort of not making any advertising for ourselves. We just opened the World of Astoria, which actually opening is tonight, the official opening. But again, this is a project that is turning into a dining destination with a different selection. We have Heinz Beck, for instance, on board as well as the celebrity chef for one of the restaurants, which is proving to be great. And then the story will be written. We'll see how things are developing. The Palm is not an easy location, as some of you in the room probably also know. It's quite different from what is happening in the rest of the city. But so far, so good. We're quite pleased.
Okay, well, I'm out of time, so I'd like to open it up if you have any questions. Anybody have any questions for our distinguished panelists?
Like to have in your hotel group or your management company outside of your own brands? So outside of your own concepts, what's one concept that you really like?
I'll go first, if that's all right. I wasn't invited out with Rohit last night. I had to go and do my own thing. I got lucky. I went to a place that broke all the rules in our book of rules. I walked through a hotel that was empty. I walked through a marble-laden lobby that had no soul. I walked up a staircase that took me the wrong way. I could have got a lift, and then I finally get to a venue. It's called the Oku Lounge. Marcus was talking yesterday, and it broke all the rules, and it delivered an experience, arguably that it shouldn't have done because of my access to actually get there. And I think it delivered a great experience. It was delivering a bar, a lounge, Japanese, Pan-Asian experience. So I would cite that one.
I had the pleasure of going to a restaurant last week called the Tippling Club, which is actually in Singapore, and you're nodding, and a guy called Dean Rist, who runs it, who spends his whole time at your table talking through the food that you're having. So it's a real experience. And I thought I was actually in a chemistry lesson as I went through this phenomenal gastronomic experience with someone who's so passionate about food. If I could bottle that and replicate it, and I know I can't, I'd be in heaven, because I think you can then give people amazing food with fantastic service, with a personality, that's to die for, and I would go back. It was very expensive, but if you're ever in Singapore, it was just an experience that I haven't had for a long time, and I've been around a long time, as you can tell. So,
I'd love to put a singular concept in our hotels, something like meat liquor in London that serves hamburgers and great cocktails. The hamburgers are #1 seller globally. And for somebody to take the bold step to just do that and serve cocktails, I think we get a tremendous amount of hotel guests and outsiders. They have lineups around the door. I admire that. Around the block, I admire that.
Henning.
Well, looking at the landscape that's available and it's broad here in Dubai, I think, and it was mentioned earlier, South American concepts are definitely is a great opportunity, I think, for the right executed concept. Yeah, something in this direction, definitely. Yeah.
Rohit?
There's a gentleman on Soi Convent in Bangkok. I used to buy these skewers from his drunk uncle when I was 17 years old, and he passed away, and his nephew took over the stall, and every day he's there in the evening hours. He sells a stick. You can dip it in the sauce with the sticky rice. He sells about 1,000 sticks a day for 10 baht, and he makes about $10,000 top line on the streets of Bangkok. And if I could ever, replicate the authenticity and the integrity of what this gentleman does every day in a restaurant concept, I think there's so much to be said about all the great street food restaurants, the raw aspects of what they are, but the authenticity and the genuine food that they deliver. If I could bottle that and put that somewhere, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Great. All right, Rohit, do you just want to quickly summarize? And thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been a great session. We got to look at varying perspectives on what's going on in the industry, how the hotels are trying to evolve with the trends. But I think as we look at the market, I think each region is moving in a different mindset. So whether we're independent restaurateurs or hoteliers, I think we need to curtail the concepts based on the consumer behaviors within those markets. And I think that's really, really important because what's going on in Bangkok is certainly not what's going on in Dubai. But I think we're all learning as we're going, being consumers and operators and owners. And I think it's important to continue to keep our hands and feet on the ground because these trends are going to continue to change and they're going to have an impact on how we embrace the F&B outlets within our hotels. So.
Okay, great. All right, well, everybody can show their appreciation to Rohit and his panel. Thank you. And Rohit, if you can let us know next year where you're planning to go and to bring your credit cards with you as well. I heard it was quite a good evening.